Good morning. Thank you for coming to Antioch Baptist Church's YouTube page and Facebook page. So I want to get right into the message this morning. Today I would like to talk about the Goodman. The Goodman. It's a term that's only used 6 times in the Bible. And the Goodman is simply the head of the household or the head of the family. And he's a man that takes guard over something. It's a military term that's used for one that guards, but it's also a term meaning that a man who is the head of his household. And we think about today's role models as the head of the household. We think about Homer Simpson. He is the epitome of what's portrayed as a head of the household today. It's horrible how men are treated and how they look and how they are portrayed on TV like bumbling idiots. And that's not the case. That is not the case at all. The sad thing in America is 78,116,000 homes do not have a head of household as a male, a father figure in a home. Or you can look at it like this, 23.6% of the homes in America are without a father. And it's a sad condition for our country and our nation. And in the Bible, we look at the term the Goodman. The Hebrews actually adopted that term. The Greeks actually had it. And what they did was they divided up the night watch into 3 different sections. And then they would set somebody to guard something for 3 different guards to cover the night watch over their whatever they were guarding. The Hebrews also had 3 night watches. But then when the Romans came along, they actually divided up into 4 sections. They divided the night into 4 time periods, and they had 4 different guards that would watch throughout the night to make sure that nobody stole anything or whatever, broke into the camp or whatever. And so that's what they did. But then the Hebrews actually adopted the Romans when the Romans took over Israel. They adopted the 4 watches of the night. And so with that in mind, I want to point out our enemy. Our enemy is the devil. He's known as Satan. You know exactly who he is. But the Bible describes him in John 10:10 like this. He says that he is a thief that cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. But then Christ says, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. And I'm telling you, Satan is here to destroy your home. And if you're a man watching this today, you're going to be the one I'm primarily preaching to today. Are you the Goodman of your home? Are you the one who's watching after your home and guarding your home and keeping it safe? Now that term, it actually had a social meaning that I'll tell you. If you stay tuned till the end, I'll tell you the actual social meaning of the term the Goodman. And so it's mentioned 6 times in the Bible. And the first mention of it is in Proverbs chapter 7, verse 19. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 19. If you want to look that up and see what happens when the Goodman is away, the Bible said this. It says, for the Goodman is not at home. He is gone a long journey. And so we see that the Goodman's away from the house and he's not watching his house. And in that passage, it discusses things that I'll not talk about because it's so horrific, what happens in the home. The Bible is very peculiar. Everybody always likes to cite the bad things in the Bible, but the Bible's a true book. It's a literally true book in the fact that it records human behavior, whether it be good or whether it be bad. It records both. It's accurate. It depicts man at his best and man at his worst. But I'll tell you, Satan, he wants to come into your home and he wants to rob your home's purity. And that's what that whole passage deals with, is purity and lust. And so that's the first thing. The thing is, if somebody wanted to see something lustful or impure, you'd have to go, a county away and sneak into like a gas station to get a magazine or something like that. But you know that the average 10 to 11-year-old boy is exposed to pornography. Not only that, but 8 out of 10 males are addicted to pornography. And not only that, but it says that by the term addicted, that means those that access it more than once a week. And they said between the ages of 14 to 16-year-old, they visit sites daily. Just to let you know the purity of our nation and the purity. And I know that we're in a society that we have to stay connected and we have to stay on top of things, and you're expected to have a cell phone or a mobile device, a pad or a computer. You're expected to be on the internet at any time. But I'll tell you what that has done is it has brought in with the access to, limitless knowledge. It's brought in a lot of evil things too. And I'll tell you, Satan, he comes to creep into your home and he wants to steal your children's purity. A 10 or 11-year-old, that is too young to be exposed to stuff like that. Their minds can't comprehend it. Their bodies aren't adjusted for it. And I'll tell you, it's a wicked thing that Satan wants to come and he wants to steal and to kill and to destroy. And he wants to creep into your home. And I'll tell you, he comes in through phones. He comes in through the television. You think of the entertainment that we watch. And God knows the entertainment that you watch. He knows what you enjoy. God knows what we all look at and what we all see and what we all find enjoyable as entertainment in this nation. And I'll tell you, 50 years ago, stuff that was said and done on TV, is nothing compared to what it is. The very worst that came out 50 years ago is nothing to what daytime TV has nowadays, with the language, with the lustful things, and all kinds of stuff like that. I'll tell you, it brings in all types of entertainment. And God knows what we watch. And he knows what gets you excited. And he knows what you watch when no one's around. He knows all these things. But I tell you, he knows what your kids watch too. And God knows and he sees these things. And I want to ask you, are you guarding your home? We worry about like our kids' privacy and things like that. But Google doesn't care about your privacy. YouTube doesn't care about your privacy. Apple doesn't care about your privacy or your children's privacy. We want to have these things, but I'll tell you, it comes with a great responsibility to have these things. And Satan, he wants to come in and he wants to destroy your home, and he wants to destroy your kids' lives, and he wants to just steal their innocence. He wants to steal their purity, and he wants to steal their minds with godless entertainment is exactly what he wants to do. I want to ask you, are you guarding your home? Do you know what your kids watch? Do you know what your wife watches? Do you know what you watch? Do you pay attention to what you watch? Because you're an example before your family. I'll tell you, I was in college, and one of the required courses, I had to take a debate course. And when I was in that class, of course, the topic was pornography. It was just what was chosen. And I know as a Christian, that sin never leads to a good thing. But the main argument from the opposing side was, in states that have higher pornography usage, there's less attacks on women. And you can't argue with that. That is true. And so that bothered me, and I thought, and I knew in my heart there's just something not right, and I know it's not a good thing that we have this thing running rampant through our nation. And I was debating them, and I stayed up the night before that debate all night, just hunting and reading and finding anything I could find statistic-wise to debunk that argument, because that side was, I knew that's what they would come at us with, because that's the main proponent for it, And so the day of the debate came, and I had found something that night that I thought was pretty strong. And so they came, and they went through their arguments. They had little bitty arguments leading up to the main argument. And then their last point was, well, attacks on women go down in states that have higher pornography usage. And of course, I knew they would come with that. And then it was my turn to stand up, and I was going to give the closing rebuttal to that argument. And I stood up, and this is what I said. And I found these statistics the night before, and it broke my heart. Women can go to a police station and file a police report. And this is what I said during that debate. I said, women can go to a police station and file a police report, but I said children can't. And I said, you look at the states with the highest usage of pornography, those are the very states that have the highest child abuse and child molestation rates in America. You match those numbers up and they align perfectly. And I'll tell you, the kids can't go to a police station. They're just victims without voices in this nation. And it's all due to Satan coming into homes and stealing and robbing. And he's out to destroy your home. And I want to tell you, he's not going to let up until he gets a foothold somehow in your home. But you've got to be the Goodman. You better be watching your home. You better be watching out for your family and guarding your family with all that you have. You know, that's the first point. And that's the first time the verse is mentioned, is in Proverbs chapter 7, verse 19. And you better be watching your home. The second time we see it mentioned is in Matthew chapter 20, verse 11. Matthew chapter 20, verse number 11. We see that Satan comes in, and Christ in this passage here, he's telling a parable. And he's talking about how he hires some men to work early in the day, and he gives them such and such rate. And then he hires some men in the middle of the day and at the end of the day, and he pays all of them the same rate, even though the ones at the end of the day didn't work as long as the ones at the beginning of the day. And so the ones who got hired at the beginning of the day started grumbling and griping and complaining because they weren't paid more than the people who worked just a little while. And then the goodman of the house came out and he said this. He said, "Are you grumbling because I'm good to people?" You know, Satan, he wants to steal the happy from your home. The first thing he wants to steal is he wants to steal the purity and innocence from your home. The second thing he wants to steal is he wants to steal the happiness from your home. The joy that can be in a household. I'll tell you, we go around and it's easy. I mean, all of us do it. We get complacent. We start grumbling and griping about this and that. Next thing you know, nobody can do anything to please you. And you know, Satan loves that. He loves when he can get in a foothold into your joy and your thankfulness and your joy that God is good to you. And he wants to steal that spirit of praise and thankfulness that you have for God. And he wants to sneak into your home and he wants to steal it by causing you and your family members to be grumbling, to be unthankful, to go around and be sarcastic about stuff and have just an evil spirit of sarcasm and grumbling in your home. He's happy because if he does that, your home's right on a thin thread and it'll start falling apart and start cracking away at the hinges. And he knows that if he can do away with your joy and your happiness in the Lord, he knows that he can destroy the rest of your household too. And so he knows that if he can do that, that's what he'll do. I know in my own home, I watch and I pay attention to my daughter. And if I hear something sarcastic come out of her mouth, I know good and well she's either watched a cartoon with something, and God help us, cartoons are even sarcastic nowadays, but it's the truth. I tell you, I know that she's either seen something or heard somebody else talking, and she's copying that evil spirit. It's something that creeps into your home. Satan, he doesn't care if he has to come in through the TV, he has to come in through the window or the back door or the basement. However he can get into your home to destroy your home, he will. Lydia, she a while back, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, everything I set down in front of her to give her to eat, she started grumbling and griping about it. I don't want this, and started crying and whining about it. And my daughter, she's normally pretty good, I have to admit, but she just got into this little mode where, and I know kids are going to go through phases and they're going to like different things, but it got to where every single meal she just started griping and complaining about her food. And finally, I'd had about a belly full of it. And so I grabbed her up by the hand and I said, "Come on, let's sit down on the couch for just a minute." And I got my phone and I Googled starving kids. And I pulled up the image search in Google. And I showed her these little starving kids all around the world. I said, "You see that one there whose ribs are hanging out, whose belly's swollen, who's got like toothpicks for arms and legs, who's crying because they're hungry?" I said, "That kid would be happy to have what you're eating." And I scrolled down. I said, "You see that little girl there, your age? That girl should look like you." But I said, "She's starving to death and she'll be lucky to get a handful of rice a week." And I said, and you're sitting there grumbling about it. She broke down and started bawling and crying. And I know I'm probably not going to win Parent of the Year award from doing that either. And yeah, that may be a little harsh. But I tell you, that's the reality of it. And I showed her reality. And I want my daughter to know reality versus these fictitious images that we get in our mind from Hollywood and TV and all kinds of entertainment. I'll tell you, I showed her those images. And guess what? She hadn't grumbled since. You know, we need to be thankful for what we get. We need to be thankful. I said, Lydia, that is exactly why when we sit down to eat, we thank God for every meal we get. Because I said, something could happen to your daddy or something could happen to your mama, and we would not have the means to be able to afford food like we do for you now. And boy, it really changed her spirit. And I tell you, I went to a little youth meeting. I guess it was about 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe it was a little longer than that. Maybe it was about 4 years ago. Time flies. But anyway, we went there to that youth. It was a youth meeting. And this little young preacher boy, he got up. And I thought I knew youth. I've been in youth ministry for 22 years. And I thought, yeah, I know all about youth. I know what they're into. And I keep up with the trends and things like that. And this little young preacher boy got up and he preached. He said, he said, my topic tonight's going to be suicide. And I thought, yeah, there'll probably be 2 or 3 that God's dealing with tonight. And he got done and he had the altar call, and he asked a question before he gave the altar call. And he said, how many of you are struggling with suicide? And I thought, yeah, there'll be 2 or 3 here within the last 3 months. And that just shocked me. And I just couldn't believe what I had heard. And he said, in the last 2 or 3 months, and this is what riveted me, there was probably about 100 and something kids at that youth meeting that day. And I guarantee you over 60% of them said that they are struggling with suicide. I'll tell you, Satan, he wants to kill. He wants to steal, and he wants to destroy your home. And I want to ask you, are you the Goodman of the home? Are you guarding your home? Are you watching to make sure that you know what's going on in your kids' lives, what they're struggling with, what they're dealing with? Do you know all these things? Are you watching? Are you paying attention to these things? The Goodman of the home, that's your job. That's what your main role is. The main duties, I was asked a while back, somebody asked me this, and biblically speaking, the father of the home has 2 roles, and this goes through the Old Testament into the New Testament. The father's main role for raising a daughter is to keep her pure until the day of her marriage. And the role of a father for his son is to keep him pure from the day of his birth until he's given away in marriage, and to make sure that the boy has a good name when he marries also. That's the whole duty of a father. And so I ask you this morning, are you the Goodman of the home? Are you watching your family? Are you guarding your home? The next time we see, the third time that this phrase, the Goodman, is used is in Mark 14:14 and also in Luke 22:11. And it's where Christ sends his disciples into Jerusalem during the Passover to find a guy who's carrying a pitcher, and he wants them to follow this guy carrying a pitcher until he gets to a house. When the man with the pitcher goes into the house, they're supposed to ask the goodman of the house and say, hey, our master's wanting to eat the Passover in an upper guest chamber or an upper room. Is it ready? And so they return back to Christ and they say, it was so. You know, it just blows my mind. I'd never really studied this until, or thought about this until, studying this term, the goodman, out. But anyway, it says, and wheresoever he shall go in, say ye to the goodman of the house, the master saith, where is the guest chamber where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And so the thing is, this man, it's just random. You think about all the randomness of this. This guy, the goodman of the house, it says this in verse 15. It says, a large room was furnished and prepared. It was furnished and prepared. I'll tell you, this man, he had his home in order. Not only that, but he was organized and he was ready for Jesus to come to his house. And so, I mean, you think about that. Think about the Goodman of the home who's successful. Think about how great this was. I know if companies come into our house, we're, running around frantically, vacuuming and dusting and sweeping and cleaning this and hiding toys everywhere. I mean, God help us if somebody opened a cabinet door or a closet door, a whole avalanche of stuff would come crying out, out of our home. But this man, his home was in order. He was ready for Christ to visit his home. He didn't have anything to hide. The only thing, if you read that passage out, it's in, like I said, Mark 14:14 or Luke 22. The man goes and he prepares the meal. That's literally all he had to do was prepare the meal. And he got the meal ready. The upper room was ready. His house was ready. His house was furnished. And his house was prepared for Christ to come. Which leads us to the last two times that the verse was there. The last two times the verse is mentioned. And Luke, and this one here is a warning about being ready. In Luke chapter 12, verses 39 and 40, and then also in Matthew chapter 24, verse 43. But I'm going to read Luke 12, 39 and 40, but just so you can have the reference, it's mentioned in Matthew chapter 24, verse 43. It said, "And this know that if the goodman of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched, and not have had suffered his house to be broken through. Be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man cometh at an hour when ye think not." And so we know that Christ, he's described. Now this is the difference between Christ and Satan. Satan, we know that he is, let me reread that verse. It says, "The thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy." But listen at this. It says in 2 Peter chapter number 3, verse number 10, it says, "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night." 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 2, it says this. It says, "For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night." And then in Revelation chapter 16, verse 15, it says, "Behold, I come as a thief." But you know what? Christ doesn't take anything that doesn't belong to him. That's the good news. And so we see that Christ, he takes only what belongs to him. So those that are saved, those that are prepared, those that are ready to go to heaven, those are the ones that's going to be taken. And then it says he describes it like a thief in the night. But he is not a thief. He is not out to destroy your home or to tear it apart and things like that. Christ comes that he may give you love, joy, peace, happiness, gentleness, meekness, temperance, faith. I mean, he comes to give you those things. And so I want to ask you, Goodman, are you watching your home? You've got to watch for your home, because Satan wants to destroy and he wants to steal the purity and the innocence from your home. He wants to steal the joy and the happiness from your home. God forbid he would want to destroy the lives too. But then also we see that a Goodman can be prepared. We see an example of a man who had his house ready. His house was in order and it was ready for Christ to come into his home. But not only that, but we get the gravest warning in the Bible, and he warns you over and over again. There's two terms where the Goodman, but we read several verses in the Bible talking about the day of the Lord, how it's going to come like a thief in the night. Jesus is not a thief. He only takes what belongs to him. But you know what? This is the other things you need to pay attention to in those two verses. It says, if he knew when, he would have watched. I want to ask you something. You may think, well, today's not the day. I don't need to sit down today and witness to my kids. I don't need to talk to him today. I'll do it another day. I'll do it another time. If he knew when, he would have watched. If you knew when, you would have watched. And another thing is, the saddest thing is, whenever that day does come and homes are split up and there's sons and daughters missing and wives missing and daughters missing and husbands go missing and then the wife's left and the children are left, I mean, it's going to be a sad day. It's going to be a day of regret. There'll be much weeping and gnashing of teeth. You know, in that day it's described of weeping and gnashing of teeth. But the thing is, today is your day. He gave you today to do what you need to do. And I want to ask you, are you watching? Are you ready? The other thing is, it says, the last part of the verse, it says, his house was not broken up. I want to ask you, is there somebody in your home that's not saved? Is there somebody in your home that, you know, the rest of the house is doing pretty good, but there's that one in the house you kind of wonder about? Today may be the day that you need to pay attention and talk with them. Today may be the day you need to pick up that phone and call them. Today may be the day that Lord lays them on your heart and you just want to have that time of reassurance. I tell you, I can't describe to tell you how many funerals I've been to where the family wonders, he said he was saved or she said she was saved, but don't really know and their life didn't really bear it out. You want to let your family know that you're saved, that when they die and they close their eyes in death, that you will see them in heaven. Give them that assurance. They deserve it. I'll tell you, I've stood there and held mom's arms and them falling down fainting because they didn't know if they'd see their kid in eternity or not. I'll tell you, it's a sad day when houses are broken up. And that's what Satan wants to do. He wants to destroy your home. Goodman, are you watching? Goodman, are you paying attention? Now, I promise you at the end of the video, I'd tell you the social meaning of the Goodman. And that term, at the end of somebody's watch, they would walk up to them and they would observe and see that whatever they were guarding was still intact and it was the way it was supposed to be. And after they looked at it and they saw that everything was good, they would say, "You're a good man." And they would shake their hand and they would walk away. But it basically means that you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. And the term Goodman simply derived from the term you're a good man. You're a good man. And I want to ask you today, are you doing a good job? Has God dealt with your heart about anything that I've said today? If He has, I ask you, just leave a comment in the section below that says, "Brother Jamie, contact me if you want me to call you and pray for you." Or just say, "Brother Jamie, pray for me," and I'll be happy to pray for you. But Satan's not going to stop. He's not going to stop today. He's not going to stop tomorrow. He's never going to stop until he destroys every single home and he wrecks every single life. Now, if God has convicted your heart about something today, I ask you, please pray. Please pray. If God's dealing with somebody in your home about salvation, I don't want your home to be broken up or destroyed or split apart. But I do want you to be a Goodman.